welcome back to another fabulous channel. I'm Jacob from Jacob Booksquare, and we're doing my first time reading video again. So I did a video like this with Sally Rooney. That video was a mesh of a few different things, but the key here was it was my first time reading. Originally, I had a different author. We moved them to next month, I think, if I don't pick somebody else, but I think it will be next month. And I decided to go with S.A. Cosby. S.A. Cosby was an author that I've heard about for a long time now. He is a Southern Gothic crime thriller novelist. He's written a lot of short stories and stuff, and they're normally very graphic and violent things. So a book that was recommended to me a while ago was called Razorblade Tears, which I have since started and now realized that I wanted to do this video on him because of this book. So we're going to talk about it. I'm 30% into Razorblade Tears, so this will also be counted as the first update, but let's quickly talk about who S.A. Cosby is. S.A. Cosby is someone who had a lot of small, tiny breaks throughout his career. He ended up writing for a crime magazine, and he's been publishing short stories in there. He's published over 100 or so inside different crime magazines, because his first novel, he got picked up after he won an award, and his first novel wouldn't sell, and then it eventually did sell, and it did really, really well, which is good for him. Razorblade Tears then sold and things, and it has such a very strong quality. So I've seen a lot of people talk about this. Became extremely popular. Also, if there's any spoilers in this video, the screen will turn this color. This is about two ex-cons who get revenge on their gay sons. One's black, one's white. Their sons are murdered, and so they go out and they get revenge for it. That's essentially what the story is about, and that really is the pitch line for it, and it's about the ramifications of that. And so I wanted to know kind of why, and so I found a article in the LA library system, which is weird. That's where I found the article from, and so I'll link it down below. In that article, he talks about how he had a friend who grew up in the same community. He grew up in, that was a close friend of his who had came out a few years prior for him writing this book, and it went over horribly, and he wanted to talk about the cultural ramifications of coming out in a black Southern community and just in a black community in general, and how homophobia and racism still go hand in hand in tangent, and he's doing it beautifully, and that was like the inspiration for this book. Some other things that he talked about was how when he first wrote the first draft of Razorblade Tears, if you guys don't know, a book doesn't just get written in one draft and you're done. I think some people do somewhat believe that. That's not how it works. You go through like 12 drafts, and sometimes more than that, sometimes less than that, depending on if you have an agent. Like, it really just depends on where you're at in your career and what you're trying to achieve with it and stuff. If you're a self-published author, you can go through 40 drafts. That's a little more harder because you're your own boss. For him, he probably did have an editor. He probably had strict drafts and stuff. Most editors and who you work with and stuff, they go through about 5 or 6. And so he said throughout the revision process, going back through it and revising it and changing things, he said the characters didn't change and the actions didn't change. The main like set pieces, events and stuff did not change, but the ramifications did. When he first wrote it, the main characters didn't really have ramifications for their actions because it really was that story about revenge. Then he was like, we need to put those ramifications in, and so I started to fully flesh out the novel by doing that, which I thought was really cool. But let's talk about Razorblade Tears. Like I said, I'm 30% in. First things first, the writing is gorgeous. I think it's beautifully well constructed. I think the few action sequences that we have gotten are like, I was thinking of like John Wick, or I'm thinking Nobody, very Chad Stealthy. I can't remember what his company is called in that line. Very, like, I can definitely see like if they did sell it to them, I think they would probably like maybe not do a really good job with it. I can get the vibe from that. This is much more serious. There's a few relationships in here which I thought really interesting. The one guy, him and his wife, so one is divorced and he lives alone, he's a drunk, and the other one is married, and they have taken in their son's kid. They both respectively didn't really talk to their son. They both respectively just kind of just warned them off. Now the one who's divorced was much more like in that family relationship, but he definitely wasn't like a part of the family relationship, I should say. But like his wife kicked their son out type of thing. Either way, their relationship between the one guy and his wife, I'm really bad at names, so I'm not naming people. Their relationship I thought was really interesting, and their conversations and stuff, I thought their banter I really liked quite a bit. It was really different from anything else in the novel, which made it stick out very well, which was great characterization. And then, like I said, the action set pieces are just phenomenal, and I really do like how the book is like, we're getting revenge and we're not holding back, which I really like. I know some people didn't really enjoy how action heavy this story is and how violent the story becomes, but I'm very excited to see where we go from here, where I'm at, and we're setting up this like great scene, and I'm like, oh my god, I can see it now, and like if it turns into what I think it's going to turn into, this is going to be phenomenal. So I'm very happy I chose this book. I was reading it and I was like, oh my god, this is a perfect book for like one of these videos. And you research on the author, get to know him a little bit more, and then like talk about it and stuff. I'll be you guys probably 50% into it, 75% in, but it is a crime thriller, which I didn't realize. And I'm not the biggest fan of those, but I think I like it from like the perspective that he's telling it from. And I'd be interested to read more from this author as well. So far, we'll see how the rest of the book goes. Okay, I have an update for Razorblade. I hit the 50% mark of the book, and I figured I'd come in here and tell you guys if I'm liking it still. The scene did not turn out the way I was expecting from the last clip, but I still very much like the payout of it. There's like one element of the book that I'm just not like really vibing with, so I don't know if it'll be a 5 or not because of it. It's the antagonistic part of it, the people behind it, I should say. The group, the thing behind it is the part that I don't like, but everything else I'm very vibing with. There was a whole conversation about homophobia and racism, which I thought was really, really cool and really well done. It had a lot of nuances in the conversation, a lot of nuances, and I really like how the characters, even though they are so in an interesting like perspective, they also have a lot of nuances, and how interestingly enough the one dad has in a constant conversation with his son in his dreams and stuff, and in that constant conversation he is reminded of how closely racism and homophobia go hand in hand in things, and how much his son batted with him about that, being like, this isn't the only thing that's out there, and like all this other stuff. And I thought the conversations are just handled so beautiful and so well, and it's the little things. I think the character development here is top notch, at least for the main set. I'm also, like I said, I really like the relationship side of it as well, and I like how he's not afraid to go there no matter what the circumstances, which I really, really enjoy. I'm a little nervous that the dad's gonna have like a sappy backstory. There's like a little hint to it in the last section of the book that I read, and I kind of hope that's not where it's going, and I hope that it's something different. Obviously their backstories are also, they're bleak because like, you know right away that he was charged with manslaughter and he was out of his kid's life for a long time and stuff, and he showed up and it was a bit of a chaotic mess. Yeah, I don't know. Very much enjoying it though. There's also this added layer of like religion on it as well. One of the son's mom was extremely religious and conservative, and so you have that on the extra layer, and start talking about religion, and the dad, who didn't really connect with his son on that level, wanted to believe that he could change straight and things, has now since realized that's not the case, and just wish that he would have just allowed his son to be whoever he was. He also is having that conversation as well about religion, and how that shouldn't have dictated that relationship so much, how God can come in between relationships like parents and their children for the stupidest shit. Like, they'll just cut them out of their lives, and that's like your parent, and they're supposed to be bigger than that or whatever. And I figured, like I said, all the conversations are extremely nuanced, and that's the part that I'm liking like a lot. Obviously the violence is written extremely well, and I love me a good gory story, and this is definitely hitting those marks. This is the payoff. It's really ramping up though, so I'm excited to read the last 50% of it. Last 160 pages or so. I want to come here and end this vlog for Razorblade Tears. I just now finished it like an hour ago, and I was like, I need some time to let it settle and sit where I can make a good, like what it is. Is it a 4.75? Is it a 5? Is it a 4.5? We're landing. We all knew it was above 4. But we're at above 4, right? And I landed on a 5. I think the ending was perfect. I think the perfect amount of consequences and the perfect amount of actions. I also do love a book that goes full revenge, and this one does not deliver. That's a bit of a spoiler. I love a book that goes there, and as I've been told before, this book went there in every regard. Also, my one inkling that maybe one of the pack stories was going to be a little too dark wasn't a problem. And that's all good too. Overall, this was a great time. I absolutely loved the writing here. S.A. Cosby just does a phenomenal job going through all these different circumstances and building it up beautifully. I kept thinking of other like great action films such as John Wick and Nobody, which I've mentioned before, and they even had the house scene at the end, all the people come together type of thing. It was good. It was good. It was everything I wanted. I recommend like either his agent or somebody else get in contact with their production team, and I could totally see this being a movie. My only thing here with it being a movie, with it translating, is that it does cover some very dark topics and does deal with some things that I think some people could deem problematic problematic if it's not done in a right way, where it's not problematic here. Every conversation that's held, everything that's done, I think it's done perfectly and executed so well. That's the homophobia or the racism or anything else, classism, the whole 9 yards of what we're dealing with here. I think it's all done very well. And I even really ended up liking the villains in the end, which was really nice because I didn't really like them in the beginning. It was very satisfying to see a lot of them die, and then some of our people died. And like, I think it was a nice even balance of both things. I thought the stakes raised significantly in the third act, and it was already really high, and so like that's really hard to do, and I think he did it beautifully and crafted it so well. So overall, this was phenomenal. I could not recommend this book more. I do recommend looking at the trigger warnings and stuff. It's extremely violent, ultra violence on page. Any type of violent that happens in the novel is shown. There is no cookie cutter, no cutaways or anything, so just know that going into it. But it was well worth it, and I think it was well deserved. I think the violence was needed, in my opinion, at least for my enjoyment of the novel. I don't think I would have had it any other way. And I don't think the ultra violence and the graphic nature of what the book is about takes away from the important and potent messages of racism and homophobia and everything else that's in it, and whatever culture we're talking about. My only complaint that I had with it is I felt sometimes the voices between both dads kind of intertwined a little. It was when they were just together themselves. I really need the tags at the end of who said what, because sometimes I feel like they talked a little too similarly, but that could just be a me thing. I don't really know. Yeah, that's like my only complaint though. Nothing, it happened like once or twice throughout the novel overall. That's what I got for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any authors I should do with this, leave them down in the comments down below, as I would love to try out some new authors. I'll see you guys until next time. Thank you guys so much for watching, and goodbye.